everybody, and welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're talking about Daredevil, the Devil's Hand. Hey everybody, welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I'm your host, Brent, and today we're talking about more Daredevil. We're jumping back in here. This is Daredevil, the Man Without Fear, the Devil's Hand. This is where Andy Diggle takes over and basically runs the book into the ground by everybody else's account. So, having never read this, I decided to jump in. How bad could it be? We're coming off of Bendis' run and Brubaker's run. Greg Rucka stepped in for a little bit to help them in the last volume that we read and reviewed. So, Andy Diggle's a pretty competent writer. How bad could it be? Well, it's pretty bad. The art, however, is phenomenal. You got Roberto De La Torre on here doing art, and if you don't remember him, I was first exposed to him on the Daniel and Charles Knopf Iron Man run. So he's got like a gritty style. I would say he's a pretty good cross for Alex Maleev and maybe some late Butch Geis, and also who else was on there? Michael Lark on the Daredevil run. So it's keeping the same kind of style and theme of this grim, kind of pseudo photoreal, gritty kind of exposure turned way up and super dark, super blacks, lots of ink on the page, lots of detail, and lots of mood, right? So that's phenomenal. Can't discount Roberto De La Torre on here. Then in the back half of the book, you have the current Daredevil artist coming on to Daredevil for, I think, the first time, Marco Checchetto. And let me tell you guys, Marco Checchetto, this book, aside from this book being a pretty bad read, he's a phenomenal Daredevil artist. And I'm trying to look for a page here. But, like, his current Daredevil stuff is kind of beyond compare to me. He's been doing, I think, Chip Zdarsky's run almost the entire way through. This volume and in the last volume as well. Like, I think they ended it when Elektra became Daredevil for a little bit, and then now there's a new volume. I think that's 5 issues in. But he's a phenomenal artist. I've seen him. I don't know if I first saw him on Avenging Spider-Man, but he was doing some Avenging Spider-Man years ago. He did Brubaker. Well, no, not Brubaker. He did Greg Rucka's Punisher run. Phenomenal there. And then here you go. Here is Marco Checchetto on Daredevil right here. So I want to believe that this is like the first time, because I believe it was after this that you had the crossovers with Punisher and all this other stuff sometime later when Mark Waid jumps on the book, which is what I'm excited to get to, is the Mark Waid era of Daredevil. But before we get there, we got to get through here first. So this is all leading into the Shadowland crossover, which is basically where Daredevil goes off a cliff in terms of quality. So this is the build up to it. And basically what you have in here is Matt Murdock, who is now the leader of the Hand, the Ninja Hand, and he's basically letting people get killed on his watch, or so we think, or is he or isn't he? There's other players moving in here as well. You still have Wilson Fisk and Lady Bullseye. You have his friends, Foggy, trying to figure out what's going on. You have Black Tarantula and White Tiger along for the ride. One of them is a spy for the other team, so to speak. And you've also have stuff with Norman Osborn here. So this is post-Civil War, post-Secret Invasion. This is in the Dark Reign era, where you have Hawkeye, who is being played by Bullseye here, because he's in the Dark Avengers at this point. And Norman Osborn is the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. and all that in terms of like the overall Marvel story. So that's when this is taking place. But we hear about them building Shadowland very briefly, but most of the story is Matt trying to get a grip on the Hand in New York City in Hell's Kitchen, then realizing halfway through the book he needs to go to Japan. So that's what the back half of the book deals with, is him trying to unite what is called the 5 fingers of the Hand, because they all have like different daimyos or leaders, and he is the head of all the 5 basically. So he has to get them all to unite behind them so that he can turn the Hand into what he thinks is going to be an organization for good. And I'm not quite sure how you do that with a bunch of undead ninjas who turn to smoke as soon as you kill them or whatever. Like they're all turning to green smoke here. And it kind of ends with you finding out that, you know, Matt's kind of being manipulated here and not by who we think. So I'll be interested to read Shadowland. I don't think I've ever read it all the way through. I don't think I've ever read it at all. I know it was coming out, and when it was coming out, it was considered bad, like as the issues were coming out. So I have that crossover. Like it's actually a separate series, so we're gonna read that here pretty soon. And then there's also the Daredevil tie-in issues to that, which is like the last volume of this Andy Diggle storyline. So I guess Andy Diggle, you could say he came on for 12 issues in a crossover and kind of wrecked Daredevil. I don't know necessarily if it was his fault, and I never want to blame the writer if, you know, it's kind of a list of dominoes from Bendis setting up Matt to go into prison, to then Brubaker taking Matt from prison, getting him out, and then doing this hand storyline, which I felt ended really abruptly and came out of kind of nowhere at the last volume. And now you're just left with this thing you have to take care of because it's kind of too big a story thread to not to pull on and to wipe away entirely. But at the same time, I can see very easily how, when that's what you're given, like here's the state of Daredevil, he's taken over as the Hand at the end of the last issue, go and run with it. I don't really know how you could salvage that in terms of like the character arc or, you know, anything like that. So I'm not surprised that I did not have much fun reading this book. The art was fantastic, but the story was just so, and it was more unbelievable in the first half of the book when Matt is in New York and things are happening around him and people are dying, so to speak. And you're kind of wondering who's in charge here. Is Matt letting people die or not? Then it was the back half of the book when he's trying to unite the ninja leaders and stuff like that. Like that was more interesting. So not all bad, I guess, but I still would rate this if I had to. And I normally don't here, but this is where I'm telling you, like, it's some good, some bad, but mostly bad. So this is kind of like a 2.5 out of 5 for me. Not quite 3. But, you know, it's disappointing. So that's why I'm putting it on the back end of the 5-star scale, if you would. So, yeah. So we're going to read Shadowland next, and then the tie-in issues, and then at some point later we'll jump into Mark Waid's run, and we'll get to the really awesome stuff. It's so much fun. I can't wait to read that with you guys. So let me know down below what you thought of Andy Diggle's run on Daredevil. Should I be terrified of Shadowland? Let me know down in the comments, and we'll see you guys next time in the Funny Pages.